Stop the Frack Attack is a national network of people affected and threatened by irresponsible fracking-enabled oil and gas development.
Hi, I'm Christy Mogan from Converse County in Douglas, Wyoming. Last year in April, we had a well, Chesapeake well, lose control, blowout. We had these, Chesapeake told us it was natural gas only, but we learned later it was full of chemicals. This huge drilling mud vaporized cloud that landed on our property. Chesapeake didn't evacuate us. The state didn't evacuate us, but a smart man in town who worked for our emergency services said, hey, there's going to be an inversion. All that's going to be on your property. 66 homes were evacuated.
Afternoon, folks. Craig Stevens, Silver Lake Township, Pennsylvania, sixth-generation landowner. And I was introduced to the gas industry by them signing my 95-and-a-half-year-old grandmother in a nursing home to a 10-year oil and gas lease. She didn't even own the property. She was a life tenant only. There's 3 consent order documents, 2 of them signed by the CEO of Cabot Oil and Gas that said they were guilty of contaminating the water. You'll hear stories a little bit from now that say our state turned their back on us. What's worse is watching the neighbors turn their backs. These are ads in the local papers and signs that said no water line for those people, endemic, that were contaminated.
I'm Sharon Wilson from Texas. After working in the oil and gas industry for 12 years, I left due to ethical concerns. I purchased 42 acres in Wise County, Texas. I was living my American dream, watching my children run free, raising horses, and growing an organic garden. Mitchell Energy was experimenting in my area, learning how to frack oil and gas from shale. The get-rich-quick rumors sounded good to me because I owned half my minerals. In fact, I don't know anyone who was initially against the idea of fracking. I learned about fracking while researching how to get the best deal for leasing my minerals. The impacts described matched what I was seeing in my area, and I began putting together the pieces of the very complex fracking puzzle. I asked questions and documented impacts with photos and videos on my blog. Other people asked me to document their stories of impacts. I was immediately attacked by industry.
My name is Rod Brewski. After hearing the story from Texas, my story reflects that of all of us Americans living our American dream and having it shattered by multinational corporations for profit. When Encana Oil and Gas set up shop approximately 900 feet from our family's home, the 24/7 of noise, traffic, and dust was hard enough to deal with. But then, when the well came online, that taste of a 9-volt battery that fouled the air, the uncontrollable nosebleeds of my son, the state found the well out of compliance, only to fine them minimally. It's a cost of doing business.
My name's Tammy Manning. I'm from Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania, Franklin Township. I'm not going to get into all the colorful water stuff and all the explosions and stuff that could have possibly happened to our house, because other people have already described what happens to your water, and that happened to our water, the bubbles, the dirty water. This is an article from February that shows that Susquehanna County, where I'm from, is the second. Bradford County is first, and Susquehanna County is second in air pollution released by companies producing and processing gas from Marcellus.
My name is Beth Little. I'm from Pocahontas County, West Virginia. We don't have any fracking yet in Pocahontas County, but it has destroyed our community. We always had a solid sense of being neighbors who would help each other in hard times. We were hit by the derecho and Sandy, and the power was out, and people shared freezers and helped with generators and so forth. But then the landmen came. And with their spin and promises of riches and everything, things kind of went haywire and people were at each other's throats.
Good afternoon, everybody. Ray Kimball from Dimock, Pennsylvania. I wanted to find out what was going on. I went to work for the gas industry, driving a truck. Our industry, I've done right from the concreting of the initial casings, the casings in the ground, right down to the drilling process, to the fracking process. I ran residual, I ran fresh water. The concrete and the casings fail immediately. We will frack a well. We will put 15,000 PSI at the wellhead to get 10,000 pounds at the plug end. All that does is enhances the failures that are in the concrete and in the casings already. We will bring the line, bring the well online. We bring all the produce and flow back up. It runs out through the failures and now goes into the aquifer and pollutes the aquifer. This is what's happened to Dimock. Has no drinkable water at all.
My name's Leanne Kiner. I'm from, I have a 9-acre farm in Salem, West Virginia. I moved on this farm because I like the peace, the quiet. You cannot see a house from my house. I love the peepers. Sit on the porch, listen to the peepers. And that changed on a Sunday evening in 2010. The actual drilling was 400 feet from my property, 450 feet from my bedroom. For a whole year, my life was a living hell. I was close to a nervous breakdown. And this is bringing all this back to me. Sleep did not come easy for me, and I had to get on nerve pills to sleep and to calm me down. Noise was 24/7. It was like torture. I haven't benefited from this drilling at all. I've never been offered any money, and I wouldn't have taken it. It wasn't worth a dime to go through what I went through.
I'm Jim Sconyers. I live in Preston County, West Virginia, but I had to leave this state in 2001 for a job, economic migrant. I was lucky enough to return in 2007, built a modest off-grid home on my 70 beautiful acres that I had owned since the 1970s. But at that point, I had never heard the word Marcellus. I'd been away out of state for the 6 years. I had never heard the word frack. So when someone asked me would I like to sign a gas lease, I said, sure. Dumb but lucky. So I signed a 5-year gas lease. Didn't think anything of it. There'd been gas leases in my county for, decades, actually. And then I started hearing the horror stories in my county of people's farms that were ruined, roads that were blocked, lives that were made hell, as we've heard other people talk about, water spoiled, and I started to get worried.
I'm Ted Gleichman, and I'm here from Portland, Oregon, where we've been fighting liquefied natural gas for almost 9 years now. If you want to make a few $1 billion because you happen to own a hedge fund, maybe not anybody in this room qualifies, by moving methane across an ocean, you've got to turn it into a liquid. And that takes a $7 or $10 billion terminal and hundreds of miles of pipelines. So we were told this was going to be import to build America's energy security, more fossil fuels for America, in 2004 when this process started. Just before the Cheney Energy Act was passed in 2005, after the secret meetings in the White House that started in 2001. Well, they knew it was going to be export, and they flipped it a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And now that's what we're dealing with. It doesn't have anything to do with America's energy security, but it has a lot to do with fracking.
My name is Julianne Skinner. I live in Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania. My children attend Elk Lake School, which has 2 wells on the property. I became involved with the fracking business first as president of League of Women Voters. In 2009, the state of Pennsylvania decided, the state chapter, that we wanted to do a study, a consensus study on Marcellus shale. So what that involved is forming a group, and then there were issues that we had to come to a consensus, but in order to do that, we had to learn more about it. So we did 5 public programs in this rural county They were very well attended. The first month in office, we were dealing with the water in Dimock, Pennsylvania. And I was the only person on council who was, these people need water. What's wrong with that? And still, they don't like me very much. But we're all in trouble. We are all in trouble.
My name is Pramila Malik. I'm from a place called Minisink, New York. As many of you may know, we live in a state where there's a moratorium currently in place. However, despite this, my community is part of the ever-expanding sacrifice zone. In other words, we're being fracked. In July of 2011, I received a brightly colored letter in the mail from Millennium Pipeline announcing that my new neighbor was going to be a 12,260 horsepower gas compressor station, a volatile, toxic facility in the middle of hundreds of homes.
Good afternoon. My name is Donna McKee, and I live in southeastern Pennsylvania within the Delaware River watershed. My aha moment came, actually I've had a number of them, but one big one for me close to home was when I learned that Lake Nakamixon was in imminent danger of being fracked. The Marcellus shale industry drillers had leased mineral and fracking rights within the park. So, and no new water is created, as you probably know. It's only recirculated. So as we're living in an age of increasing water scarcity, projected to be the #1 problem facing humanity in the not too distant future, and already is in many areas, this just is frankly insane and doesn't make any sense to me.
My name is Deb Thomas. I come from the beautiful energy colony of Wyoming. I can't tell you how touched I've been by all of these stories. I can tell you that everything that all of these people have said we've experienced in Wyoming. Our entire state and our economic base in Wyoming is from extractive industries. Oil and gas came into our community almost 15 years ago. Since then, we have tried to get help from our local government, our state government, our federal government, and it's a he said, she said.
I'm Katie Huffling. I live in Maryland, and I'm here today representing the Alliance of Nurses for Healthy Environments. We're a national coalition of nursing organizations as well as individual nurses who believe that our health and our environment are inextricably linked. Right now, due to state regulations and agreements required by gas companies when compensating victims of contaminated water and air, many of these stories are not being heard. Homeowners whose water has been contaminated due to the fracking process are being required to sign no disclosure agreements when they accept compensation for well water contamination. Due to these agreements, they can't tell their neighbors anything about the contamination, and so these neighbors are being unwittingly exposed to toxic chemicals in their well water. As one woman summed it up this experience, it's a crime against humanity. You have to tell someone if they're getting poisoned, and you know it.
My name's John Fenton, and I'm from Pavilion, Wyoming. My colleague from Wyoming, Deb, and my other colleague from Wyoming, Christy, have said have a century or more of history with this extractive industry. And we've seen the degradation personally on our own place, the destruction of our water and the destruction of our air. But I think the destruction of people and of ways of life and of the fracking of our freedoms. We have to continue to find that strength, and we have to continue to tell these stories, because our solidarity and our willingness to stand up to these criminals, to these people who seek to profit from the skin off of our backs, is really, really, really important. This is our time to draw the line in the sand.